Hey, good evening, Sunday, October. Humanity Matters Weekly. I'm your host, Philip Fletcher, coming from Conway, Arkansas. Thank you for joining me live or the recording, broadcasting live tonight on YouTube as well as Facebook. Hey, if you're on YouTube or you've not gone to YouTube or you don't go to YouTube, go over to YouTube, put in Philip Fletcher and subscribe to my page. These are all the different places you can connect with me, whether it's on Facebook, where we're broadcasting live over at Dr. Philip Fletcher. Find me on Twitter at Phil Fletcher. Also on YouTube, as I just said, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell so you can get notifications when new videos post. And as well, join over at the World Wide Web. And when that little white box pops up, put your name and your address in, and you'll get some other updates from me. Greatly appreciate that very much. Hey, Patreon. Hey, if you're interested in supporting my show, please go over to Patreon, patreon.com, put in my name, Philip Fletcher, and you can support for as little as $5. Get access to different content, available to get some swag, all of that kind of good stuff. So I appreciate it very much. This coming Thursday, October 14th, I will be at UCA downtown, be kicking off their Bear Talks, and I'm going to be talking about the class of pain in the School of Leadership, and this is being put on by the University of Central Arkansas and their outreach and community engagement. So from what I understand, this is open to the public. So come on over and let's talk about leadership, whether you're in a church setting, nonprofit setting, whether you're in a business. Hey, you are a leader at your house. I want to speak to, the pain that is experienced in leadership and actually the beautiful things that it can produce in beautiful men and women like yourself. So that is Thursday, October 14th, 6 p.m. It is at UCA downtown. So if you're headed down Oak Street, it's right there across the street from the Creative Institute and Bob's Grill and all of that good stuff. Look forward to seeing you. Come and say hi. Hey, my nonprofit coming in November, City of Hope Outreach. We're having our Hope Village fundraiser, and it's featuring comedian Bob Smiley. And this is going to be held at the University of Central Arkansas, the Reynolds Performance Hall. And you can purchase tickets right there at uca.universitytickets.com. These funds are going to support our veterans homes that we're building in our Hope Village. And so this is November 10th, 2021, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I would love to see you that night. We're going to have some great family fun. And so it's a Wednesday night. We're reaching out to churches to bring their youth groups, all that great stuff. If you don't go to church, that's cool. You know, bring your family and have a great event. And just really looking forward to what Mr. Smiley is going to bring. And I like a good laugh. And in fact, we're going to talk about humor tonight, but we will get there. So coming up October 30th, I'll be sitting down with Angela McCardle. She is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County. If you don't know me, I lean very heavily that direction, but I like to talk to everybody, right? So Angela McCardle will be joining us, and then once that is finished, I will be posting that. So looking forward to sitting down with that young lady. We got a lot to talk about. Politics stuff, California, organizational leadership. She does a lot of great work helping individuals who are facing legal issues in regards to their home situation. So looking forward to a great full interview. Hey, if you got a question or a comment, sorry, got a feather flying. All right. As always, send me an email. Let me get that joker. All right. humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. And if I read your question and use it as the foundation for my show, I'm going to send you some swag. So send me your emails. I love emails on anything. I love to engage in stuff. So great stuff. Hey, I will be reading comments and all that kind of good stuff. Todd says, such a cool background. Thank you very much, sir. Work hard at it. I'll be switching it up soon to go to a Marvel background and then rotate back around to Star Wars. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. All right. Ring the bell. So good stuff. Oh, look at this. So I've been collecting McFarlane's Justice League action figures. All right. So that has been going on, and I got all of them. And the last one I finished getting was Steppenwolf. So I got that this past weekend. So that's pretty amazing. Look forward to putting in some work and displaying those characters and all that. I like collectibles. I'm a nerd. That's what I do on my Fridays. I like to go hang out with comic book places and hang out with some of the young folks that like to trade cards and play D&D and all that and get to understand them and sit and collect comics and all that. It's a whole world out there. You would be surprised. We get out of our bubbles to understand one another. But again, we're going to talk about that tonight. So anyways, first segment, I want to give a shout out to a peer of mine, a hard worker, been grinding. I've seen her work hard and hard. She has been helpful to me. I do fitness on top of collecting and on top of my other stuff. And she's helped me out with bodybuilding, posing, and all of that good stuff. But I want to celebrate Conway's own Brooke Walker. Now, if you don't know, the Olympia was held this past weekend. And it was held in Florida, in Orlando. And the Olympia is the big thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously, he's won so many. Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, so on and so forth. But someone who is joining the pantheon of, I would say, all-time greats, all right, is Brooke Walker. And Brooke Walker, if you don't know her, she is a trainer at 365 Fitness on Harkrider here in Conway, Arkansas. And Brooke Walker took third place overall, right? Overall in women's physique. All right. The woman in the middle is first place. The woman to the right is second. And you see Brooke right there with that number 16. Great smile, right? She took third in the world. And she's from Conway, Arkansas. This is like the Olympics of bodybuilding. All right. Look at that back. Look at those hamstrings, those glutes. Look at those biceps and shoulders. All right. If you see this front picture right here, look at those quads right there. Look at that side pose with the triceps, right? She is rocking it. So if you are not familiar with Brooke Walker, all right, she is Conway's own, and she took third in the Olympia. So, hey, if you're a newspaper person, whether you're at the Cabin or you know somebody there or at the Democrat Gazette, hey, you should reach out to 365 Fitness, connect with Brooke Walker, and have her tell her story. That is a picture of determination, discipline, sacrifice. What you see, if you've paid any attention to any type of bodybuilding and those men and women who get on stage, there's a lot of dedication, discipline, sacrifice, a lot of hard work that is put in for a very few moments on stage, right? Now, she's not going to look like that every day, right? Her body is depleted, right? I'm sure when she got off stage, she just carb loaded, all right? But the fact of the matter is, what I want you to pay attention to, that Conway's own has got a Olympian, right? And she should be celebrated. Hey, Mary Castleberry, maybe she give her the key to the city or something like that. I think that would be pretty awesome as well. Congrats, Brooke. Yes, get her on Conway scene. Her story needs to be told. Congratulations, Brooke. Yes. So again, we're just heading down some segments. Right now we're dealing with some sports, and then tonight we're going to talk about Dave Chapelle, and then we're going to talk about the modern day Gladiator. So once again, congratulations to, let's put this picture up again. Look at that. Brooke Walker, blonde right there, number 16, third in the world. She resides and works here in Conway, Arkansas. So congratulations, Brooke. I'm glad to know you and see you come in the gym and put that work in, seen it firsthand and had those conversations, and know that's a big deal to you. So applaud you much. All right. So what about them hogs, y'all? What about them hogs? Right? They took it to Ole Miss. That was a high scoring game. That was like a basketball game. It was, but kind of be expected with Ole Miss. They be putting up some points. They were held to like 20 when they lost to Alabama, who lost actually yesterday as well to Texas A&M, if you saw that. But nonetheless, KJ Jefferson marched the team down the field, right? Tied it up. And then Coach Pittman decided now it's tied up. End of the game. They're on the road. Field goal, go for two. Coach Pittman decides we're going to go for two. Why not? I actually don't disagree with him. You're on the road, go for two. And going for two, this is what I see this as. Coach Pittman was putting trust in his quarterback and his offensive team. Right? He could have, quote unquote, played the safe route and just kick the PAT. All right. But there's no guarantee that the kicker would have made the PAT, just like there was no guarantee that Jefferson would convert the 2 points. There's no guarantee in football. If it was a PAT, someone could have blocked it. Kicker could have shanked it left or right. Just equally, there's no guarantee the 2-point conversion would happen as well. Now, is there a higher probability that the field goal kicker would have made the field goal? Of course, that's a higher probability, right? But it's something beautiful, right? And you're down one, and the pressure is not only put on the offense, but it's also put on the defense as well. We can't forget that. The offense wants to get that 2 points. The defense wants to prevent it so they can go home and do what it is that they do, right? Coach Pittman decided, hey, we're going to go for two, all right? And obviously what happened is it didn't happen. Ole Miss wins. It's football. It was said in that movie, on any given Sunday regarding football. Well, on any given Saturday. But here's a leadership lesson from what I learned from Coach Pittman, but also what I hope that those young men on both sides of the ball learned as well, is that leadership is a human experience that requires trust. It just does. And it's trust in turning to one another to prepare, to plan, to execute, and then evaluate, which I'm sure both sides did. The other thing is this, like I said, there's no certainty on the outcome, but what is gained from the win or loss is the reality that these individuals are going to be that much better. They're going to understand their own selves better. They're going to understand their teammates a lot better. They're going to understand their coaching a lot better, so that when presented with this opportunity another time at a future game, whether it's at the college level or for some of them or a few of them on the pro level, that's something they can lean on, that experience. So I'm sure they learned about their particular responsibilities. I'm sure they learned about the importance, again, of communication, which is key, and realize that falling off the skateboard is tough, but it's a necessary part of life. Win or lose, there's things that can be learned from it. Now, I know people in the stands was like, oh, I saw some people talking about fire Coach Pittman. Really? Like, come on now. You was just heralding him because he beat all of Texas, right? Now you're like, fire him. Like, pump your brakes. Just pump your brakes, right? So when you go back to work tomorrow, all right, and think about them hogs. Think about them. You may have executed a plan previously, and now you got to deal with the results. You may be in preparation of executing something, right? Or you're about to execute something tomorrow. And there's no guarantee that what you're about to execute is going to pan out the way that you want. There's no guarantee. You've done your part, but there's other variables at play that are going to impinge upon that particular plan that you're seeking to execute. All right? So how will you, this is a question you need to ask, how will you and or your team approach an unfavorable outcome? Or how are you preparing for that unfavorable outcome? Typically, we don't prepare for, oh, shoot, what if it hits the fan? But what the Hogs have taught me, what it taught me and reminded me is that now, Coach Pittman, how do you prepare your men for the upcoming game, Auburn? What is it that you can take from it? What is it that those young men can take from it so that they can carry it into this upcoming week and lean on that in the Auburn game? Something to think about. Something to think about. So that's what I learned from the Hogs. And that's our sports in that segment. All right. So, hey, thank you for joining me for your Humanity Matters Weekly. Again, connect with me on any of my social media outlets, right? Make sure you click it, like it, follow, leave a review. Good, bad, or indifferent, don't matter to me. I learn from everything, right? YouTube, subscribe over there, all right? Click the bell so you can keep up to date on videos I am releasing. So let's get into the good stuff, all right? And I would appreciate, hey, you sharing this right now if you're watching. Bring other people on, tag them in this, because I want to delve into a conversation. We're going to spend a little bit of time here, all right? But to set the stage, I want to put up a quote by a famous comedian, Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor, famous comedian, passed away some time ago. But Richard Pryor said this: two things people throughout history have had in common are hatred and humor. I am proud that I have been able to use humor to lessen people's hatred. That was Richard Pryor. Now, if you're not familiar with Richard Pryor was one of them comedians that, was on fire. I don't even know if Richard Pryor would be, quote unquote, platformed today. I just don't think he would. Him, Eddie Murphy, and a host of those other ones. Even Bill Cosby to a degree. I don't think they'd be platformed today. Nonetheless, so the question is, are you listening? I think overall, that's one of the things that you can walk away with regarding the recent Netflix show released by Dave Chapelle, titled Closure. Now, I watched it twice. I watched it first time because I wanted to watch it, and I've seen his other ones. Secondly, I watched it because unless you was just had your head in the sand, you knew that the content of his comedy show that night that was given in Detroit, Michigan, was going to set the world on fire. Okay. Again, what's running in the background in my head is this. Was Dave Chapelle using humor to lessen people's outrage or hatred specifically, leaning on what Richard Pryor said? Was Dave Chapelle using his platform to give voice to a particular concern that he had? Now, catch this, as a black man in America. Because in the show, he was clear to say his problem was not with the LGBTQ community, but he said with white people. All right. Now, Closure comes on the heels of his previous Netflix show where he caught some heat for material used regarding the LGBTQ community. And so he used Closure, and he said that this is going to be his last show for a while, that he wanted to address some of those things. And once again, as a comedian, he sought to address those things. So it would be out of the norm if Dave Chapelle got up and tried to be a rap artist or just a R&B singer or a pop singer. It would not be so much out of the norm if he was going to be an actor, because he's acted before. He had the Dave Chapelle show. He was in movies like The Undercover Brother and others. But him being a stand-up comedian, that's his thing. That is his, dare I say, his calling and vocation in life. All right. Some of the things that I've read about comedians in preparing for the show is that comedians suffer greatly with depression. For example, we had the suicide of Robin Williams a few years ago. We've had the death of other comedians as well. Farley, he was in Tommy Boy, and Sam Kinison. This may be a little before some people's times. But then also that comedians have this ability to look at the dark things of the world, the unsettling things of the world, and with the ability of humor, have us look at it from a different perspective. All right. So one of the things that he was seeking to do, and that's why I put up the "Are you listening?" Okay, is that he wanted to spend some time to address one particular community in contrast to the treatment of black men and women. All right, specifically black men that he brought up. All right. I found it interesting that some things that have not caught really the news, but that he mentioned was this, is that he said that when he was in quarantine, one of the things that he mentioned was watching black brothers and sisters beat up on his Asian brothers and sisters. But here's the thing. None of that was ever reported in the news. What was reported in the news was that Asians were experiencing hate crimes. But what was never mentioned was who were the perpetrators of those hate crimes. And so when you watch the videos, and I've seen some of those videos, when you watch the videos of those individuals, Asian men and women who are being beat up, they were being beat up not by white people, but they were being beat up by black people. But none of that has caught the news because it was framed as a hate crime, but the perpetrators of those crimes were never mentioned. But you know for sure if a white person was the perpetrator of beating up an Asian man or woman, that it would have been clearly mentioned that white supremacy was the cause coming out of because of the presidency of Donald Trump, who has inspired white supremacists. Now it is impacting Asian men and women in America. But the media never mentioned the perpetrators, the assailants of these hate crimes, that's what they call them, on Asians. And in fact, a whole bill was passed, if I'm not mistaken. But Dave Chapelle clearly points that out. If you don't believe me, go on Netflix, watch it. All right. Again, it's language, but nonetheless, it's in there. Then he moves to interactions with individuals who align with the LGBT community. All right. So he tells a story about a mother whose daughter who is transitioning to be a man who is in Hollywood. He tells another story about him being in a bar and essentially being set up for a reaction. And individuals already got their cameras out to catch him. And then he closes with a very moving story about when he did a comedy show in the San Francisco area. And he gave a transgender man the opportunity to do a comedy show. He says it bombed. He said it was horrible. But eventually they became friends. That individual defended him, Dave Chapelle, on Twitter. And within 6 days after that, because of the blowback that the individual was receiving, and Dave Chapelle was clear to point this out by those of the community to which he belonged to, that comedian that he gave the opportunity to do committed suicide. And in his closure, he dedicated that to that comedian. That was moving, like moving. So the reactions. Now, let me say this. People are probably wondering, so are you defending Dave Chapelle? No, I'm putting out the information and what happened. All right. Do I have some questions? Sure. All right. And we're going to dig into those. All right. But this I will say, if we are wanting to continue to live in a society in which there are competing ideas and beliefs and thoughts, then we have to wrestle with these things and not push them off to the corner simply because they make us feel some type of way. And that's whoever you are, like whomever you are. Like, whether this is a religious situation, whether it's a social situation, a political situation, if we are going down the road to a place where society itself has to be a quote unquote safe place, right? Then there's implications to that. But we'll get there. So the reactions. So there have been reactions all across LA Times, The Guardian, and others, CNN, the showrunner for Dear White People is asking Netflix, to take that off. Basically deplatform Dave Chapelle. All right. It's been said that he doesn't understand. All right. And that there is no division between communities, Black and LGBTQ. Now, one of the things I've learned is I don't know how people can speak for an entire group of people, right? I just don't understand how. Because now, from an organizational standpoint, within a group, you're going to have a diversity of thought, a diversity of perspectives, a diversity of beliefs. Are there going to be some common things that bring those individuals together? Sure. It could be on the basis of skin color. It could be on the basis of voting pattern. It could be on the basis of class. It could be on the basis of some other type of phenotypic characteristic, religious belief, so on and so forth. Yes, but even within that quote unquote collective, there's a diversity. So I think should be very careful to speak on, one person speaks on behalf of a whole group of people as if that one or two or three individuals has infallibility in relationship to knowledge. Because from Dave Chappelle's perspective, he has a different viewpoint. One of the things he brings up, and this is like, woo, one of the things he brings up is DaBaby. DaBaby is a rapper, and DaBaby had said some things in one of his musical performances that says some things about AIDS in relationship to those who are within the LGBT community. And there was a whole lot of uproar about that. But he asked, how was it that there was no uproar when this individual, DaBaby, shot and killed a young man in Walmart? This is verifiable. He said you go look it up. I went and looked it up. It happened. All right. You can go look it up yourself. Okay. And he said, how is it there was no outrage over that? But there's outrage when he said this. And he's trying to use humor to dig into the disparity. Okay. Again, building off of Richard Pryor's quote. Let me bring you back up to that again. Quote, two things people throughout history have had in common are hatred and humor. I am proud that I have been able to use humor to lessen people's hatred. All right. So moving on, regards to what happened with Dave Chapelle. All right. This whole thing about the use of humor. So when I was watching the show, again, I watched it twice. I paid attention to the audience, right? And this is in Detroit. Okay. So in the audience, you saw Black men and women, you saw white men and women, you saw individuals with different color hair, you saw a variety of ethnicities within that particular space. Excuse me. And people laughed at the jokes. Now, I don't know, because you don't know people's sexual orientation on glance. You just don't know. But there was a lot of laughter that was rolling throughout that show that night. Now, what quote unquote moved people to laughter, I have no idea. There were some things I was like, well, I guess that's funny. Some other things I was like, okay, that was funny. All right. Other things I was like, well, okay. Right. So one of my questions was, as this was being performed, I know he knows that in that audience had to be members of the LGBTQ community. Somebody, maybe one, two, maybe. All right. There's a high probability, at least one. One of the things he really dug deep into, and we're going to get into this in regards to intersectionality, he asked this, can a gay person be racist? Can a gay person be racist? People responded, not to the degree of laughter on some of his other jokes, but see, that signals something, because then you have to make a decision. Do I not say anything because of the person's sexual orientation? But, oh my gosh, they're being racist. But if I say something, I may be considered fill in the blank phobic. But we'll get there. So here's where we run into problems. All right. Because one of the things I posted on Facebook is that comedians are one of the last few voices in our society regarding the free expression of ideas. And they're able to do it, again, through the use of humor. I mean, let's really pay attention. Dr. Seuss, take it away. Kevin Hart, a comedian. The Oscars, taken away. We're looking at a lot of the entertainment that has come out, right? A lot of the original content is being replaced by more socially aware type content. That's all I'll say to that. There's a change that is happening. So I said earlier, looking at a people in terms of a monolith or having the same experience people believe is unique to that group and none other. So as I was reading some of the reactions to Dave Chappelle's stand-up show, it's like one population experiences depression, as if other individuals do not experience depression. This population has high suicide. Well, other populations have high suicides as well if you control for other type factors. Then there's the lack of objectivity. Like, we have no starting place anymore of what is we can judge as right and wrong. So the questions I've got that we need to wrestle with is that who can be talked about and made fun of in stand-up comedy, a comedy TV show, or a comedy movie? Who can be laughed at? Are the only people it's open season on, and I'm going to say this, are heterosexual white males? Is it only open season on persons who have a particular political viewpoint and all other persons are off limits? Who is it that can be talked about and laughed at? It's something to think about. Even a dad joke, if you think about it, think about dad jokes. Even dad jokes make light of someone else. So, who can be talked about and made fun of in stand-up comedy, in TV shows, or movies? And a follow-up question to that would be, what will be the trade-offs? What will be the trade-offs to a diminishment of humor and laughter in our society? What is the trade-off to not having the opportunity to laugh at ourselves or a particular situation? What would the trade-off be? Second question. Where is Dave Chappelle's safe space as a Black man in America to talk about what he perceives as the preferential treatment of the LGBT community over and against the Black community? So if we're going to do this thing about communities, right, and lumping everybody in together, and again, for the last 2 years, it's been beat over our heads that we need to hear Black voices and their experiences, then I'm going to ask, where is Dave Chappelle's safe space? I'm asking. I'm leaning into my brothers and sisters who continually posted through 2020 the necessity to hear Black voices, the necessity to make space for Black voices so that their experience can be held. I'm asking Dave Chapelle in his program, I got it was put on Netflix, right? But in his program, and let's get it, Netflix, I'm sure, watch the whole show before they hit publish, okay, for the show. But where is his safe space, regardless if you agree with him or not? All right. Where is his safe space to voice his concerns about his experience? Or is that only reserved for a particular Black man or Black woman who hold a particular view of life, a particular philosophy about life in America, and particular ideas about what it means to be Black in America? Or is it just reserved for those people? But if that's the case, then is that truly diverse? And is that truly inclusive? I'm probably going to lose people on this one, but needs to be said. Needs to be asked. Needs to be asked. So herein lies one of the inherent problems of intersectionality. So he asks, can a gay man be racist? Close quote. If I critique a gay man for being racist, which takes precedence? The racism that is spoken to me or his orientation? So if to continue his thought experiment, if a gay man came up to me and said some racist things to me, and all you saw was me speaking back to him, you're not going to speak to me that way. You're not going to treat me that way. How dare you? You go check yourself, right? And he's standing there hand in hand with his partner. And I then explain he's being racist to me. Who do you defend? See, and this is the problem, one of the problems that we are in right now. It is this race to the bottom of victimhood. When the actual problem is just, hey, bro, like, what's your issue with me? What's your issue with me? Let's talk about it. So, what if Dave Chapelle, would have asked, can a trans man or woman be racist? Then what? Because we can't have it both ways. Thus lies the inherent contradiction and the moving target which exists today in many parts of our society. The fact of the matter is, one individual shouldn't treat another individual this way. And we shouldn't discriminate against another group because one group has a particular set of characteristics and not another. Namely, a particular way of seeing life in America, particular ideologies in America. And then let's get into the notion of creating safe places. Now, I get it, but then I don't get it. I think you should be able to come to work and do your job, not have hands put on you, not be harmed, and then you leave at the fundamental level, right? You agree to go to work, do your thing. You go to your place, do your thing. You should be able to go out in society and do your thing, right? Unencumbered. But when it comes to the sharing of ideas and the enunciation of thoughts and speech, that's where we get into a very prickly situation. Because this idea of creating a safe place, right? and this is like real prevalent, especially more so on our colleges and universities, and even in some businesses, it creates a false reality. Again, it's basically saying, hey, I don't want you to skateboard because if you skateboard, you're going to fall off and hurt yourself. When the fact of the matter is that when you leave your home, you are going to have to engage with a variety of ideas. And there are going to be some ideas out there that is just straight up hard and that you're not going to agree with. And that each one of us needs to have the maturity to educate ourselves, inform one another, and even have the courage to sit down with a person who has a different viewpoint of life and say, hey, I need to understand what it is that you're saying. And I need to then also give you what I believe about this particular situation. And then find some common ground. So again, I think what Dave Chapelle is asking is this. All right. And it's simply this. Are you listening? Again, that's a black man in America. Are you listening? He voiced a concern about his black experience in America as it relates to a different community. Is he to be heard? Is this any different than what we saw in the past couple of years, where we have heard people insistently say we should listen to a black man or a black woman in relationship to their experience to a particular group, fill in the blank, the police, white people, Karens, so on and so forth. Why is this different? How could he have done it differently? How could he have caught your attention? Again, he's a stand-up comedian. And he was clear on what he was saying, why he was saying it. And then, if you really want to think about it, he put his money where his mouth was, if you will, by giving a person of that community a platform to perform and be a comedian. And what did they get for it? They got ostracized, they got alienated, and that beautiful human being took their life. Twitter, that dumpster fire Twitter. And he was correct. Twitter is not the real world. In fact, Facebook ain't the real world. It's just not. It's just not. All right. So that is Dave Chapelle. You could agree. You could disagree. Hey, send me your comments. I firmly support his freedom of speech. Just like I firmly support those who responded to him and didn't like what he had to say, I support their freedom of speech as well. John Stuart Mill said it best himself. That individuals should be able to engage with different ideas. This is from his book on liberty, and I'm just summarizing. All right. That we should listen to different competing ideas because it can reinforce what we already know. It can expose some things like, hey, there's some stuff I still need to know. Or it could change your mind and say, hey, you know what? I'm wrong. But if we're going to continue down the road of trying to shut out everything that does not align with, and now I'm going to be crystal clear, if it does not align with what is continuing to be a left of center progressive approach as it relates to politics, as it relates to social life, as it relates to religion, as it relates to economics, and as it relates to almost everything else in the world, we are in a sad situation. All righty. So Move on to our third segment. All right. I like to call this Gladiator Reflections. Gladiator Reflections. So I was watching the Gladiator last night. Yeah, last night. And love that movie. Russell Crowe, awesome. Academy Award, like well deserved. In fact, they're making a sequel. That'll be interesting. So let's talk about this. I am neither shadow or dust. Think about that for a second. I am neither shadow or dust. What do I mean? Shadow is what is cast by a substance. Dust is what's remaining about a substance. But one of the fundamental things that I walk away with about Gladiator is that I am a human being. And there are going to be things put in front of my life, and I have a choice about how I am going to respond. So, in summary, Gladiator takes place on the coming out of the death of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is one of the he's the fifth of the 5 great emperors, and there will be 5 others that would come would be like trash. But he was the 5th one. He was a Stoic philosopher, so on and so forth. Book I highly recommend that I have read and going through is Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Great book. All right. One of the things that Marcus Aurelius talks about is this, and this speaks greatly to me. So this is out of book 3. All right. And he says this. This is number 13 of book 3. Doctors keep their scalpels and other instruments handy for emergencies. Keep your philosophy ready to understand heaven and earth. In everything you do, even the smallest thing, remember the chain that links them. Nothing earthly succeeds by ignoring heaven, nothing heavenly by ignoring the earth. That's Marcus Aurelius Meditations. And so that's the Marcus Aurelius that you're seeing in Gladiator. They take some liberties with this. Commodus snaps his neck. Commodus becomes the emperor. What was to happen was Marcus Aurelius was going to return Rome to the people. Commodus didn't like that idea. He believed that it should remain in the hands of the emperor, a sole individual. And the Senate was like, whatever. Commodus didn't care about no Senate. I think he would rather have done away with the Senate, honestly. Nonetheless, Commodus has Maximus family killed, intends on having Maximus killed. Commodus, I thought about this. Why don't leaders carry out their own punishments? What would it look like if politicians actually carried out the punishments that they put in the laws? If they actually had to come to your door and take your money, if they actually had to be the ones to come to arrest you, I wonder what they would do then. Anyways, continuing on. So I wanted to point out some things as it relates to our America today in the 21st century. All right. All right. Yes, John, the Chappelle talk was my last segment. You can go back and watch it. Yes, but we're on Gladiator now. But I think you'll find some great things in this too as well. So the first thing that stands out to me is in the opening when they are in Germania, and this is like the last battle that Marcus Aurelius is going to fight. Okay. Well, he's leading Rome to fight, excuse me, to be more specific. And so you've got Maximus and his sub-commander Quintus. All right. Quintus says this, and I quote, People should know when they are conquered. Maximus responds, would you? Would I? And so that prompted me to ask the bigger question, looking at America today, what would you do if you knew you were conquered? Meaning being subjugated, that the choices that you had for your way of life and how you wanted to see life, it was taken from you by force. Because that's what conquering is. It's taken from you by force. And if you became aware of the fact that you had been conquered, how would you respond? The second thing that stood out to me was the question of neighborliness. All right, so we're gonna fast forward. Maximus has revealed himself. Commodus is like, oh my gosh, I thought he was dead, right? It's that epic scene. He said, I'm General Maximus, right? And he's general of the Felix Legions, true servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, and he is the father of a murdered son and a husband of a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. And it looks like Commodus is about to like urinate on himself, right? So all that happens, and then what is set up is another battle between a gladiator match between Maximus and the only undefeated gladiator who has the tigers. I forgot his name. And eventually, Maximus puts him on his back. He's got the axe ready to do the death blow. He has to wait on the command of Commodus. All right. The crowd is like, kill, 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 right? Commodus gets up thinking like, I'm big bad emperor, I'm Caesar. You know, he gives him the thumbs down, and Maximus says, nope, I defy you again. So the first time Maximus defied Commodus was when he turned his back on him, right? The second time he defied the emperor, pay attention, the great leader, pay attention, the executive leader, pay attention, right? Was when the executive leader was like, kill him, take his life, take his livelihood, take everything. And Maximus is like, nope. And then the mob is like, ah, right? So the mob wanted the guy dead. Maximus is like, what say you, Commodus? Commodus says, kill him. And then Maximus is like, no. And so this thing happens. Commodus comes down and they meet face to face again. And it's a great exchange. And so I was thinking about, again, what is happening in America today. And I'm thinking about all these things that are happening. The president has said, hey, y'all unvaccinated persons, right? Y'all the cause for all of this stuff that's going on. It's your fault. It's your fault. Hey, businesses, you're going to levy the punishment on those individuals. You're going to give them a choice: vaccine, weekly testing, or they lose their jobs. And the crowd, a lot of Americans are like, do it, do it, do it, do it. And so you're standing there. And so this is what I got to thinking about. And I recast this in America. And I said this: I stood there in the midst of the crowd. I heard the screams and cries for my neighbor's life, his or her occupation, the career that they've worked tirelessly for, education for. The great leader of the nation stood to his podium with that great eagle behind him, with those beautiful stars and stripes, and commanded me to take my neighbor's life, to take their career, to take their occupation, to take it. Take his freedom, his ability to work and provide for his or her family. In the presence of all, I was to punish my neighbor because he or she did not satisfy the crowd. He or she did not satisfy the crowd. And so the great leader commanded me to take this man or woman's life, and I defied him. The great leader tried to shame me in front of the crowd. Pause. So there was, when Commodus went before Maximus, he said, and your wife, they ravaged her again and again and again. He tried to shame Maximus, right? That's where that's coming from. And I go on to say, I looked him directly in his face and said, quote, the time for honoring yourself will soon be at an end, Highness. And then he walked away. So again, what invoked this full transparency was our president, Joseph Biden, and his speech and words about the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And he's doubled down. Like, and other people are doubling down. In fact, I saw a post today about Florida nurses who walked off, right? And people were thanking them because it was better for them to walk off instead of making their hospitals unsafe. These are the same people, again, that was on Time magazine who were categorized and cast as heroes. Remember? So finally, the last thought that was provoked to me by the movie Gladiator, all right, was this. So before Maximus goes out to fight the guy with the tigers, he's talking to Proximo underneath the Colosseum. And Maximus is like, this is not the Rome that Marcus Aurelius dreamed about, right? This is not it. And that's when Proximo said, we're nothing but dust and shadow, right? So that got me thinking, looking at America today, and then thinking back to them imperfect founding fathers who helped create an imperfect nation, since there's no perfect nation ever that's existed on earth. There was a dream called America, and this is not it. This is not it. Coercion, people having to choose between medical procedure and employment, people having to choose between going to school and a medical procedure, people being divided in their own families, religious institutions seeming as if they're listening more to the state than it is to the transcendent being that is supposed to influence them. Maximus was referring to this dream of Rome, all right, that the Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius wanted. Again, I encourage you to get the book Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Actually, or if you're more of the listening type, you can go on iTunes, you can download it and listen to it as well. All right, for free. He wanted a Rome returned to the people and not in the hands of the powerful. What do I mean? What do we have today? We have a Rome, United States, an America in the hands of the politically powerful, an America in the hands of corporations, an America in the hands of, yes, I'm looking at you, Mark Zuckerberg, an America in the hands of a powerful media with some religious institutions and educational institutions functioning as surrogates. More and more power is being taken away from everyday individuals and being more and more consolidated in the hands of the political elite, Republicans and Democrats. Yes, that includes AOC. Yes, that includes Bernie Sanders. Yes, that includes Mitch McConnell. Yes, that includes Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. Yes, all them cast of characters. AOC don't care about you. Her squad don't care about you. The congresswoman from St. Louis, Ferguson area, she don't care about you. They are consolidating power. And the only individuals who are going to suffer from it are the middle class and the poor while they consolidate power. And that includes corporations, and that includes the media. So all your bobbleheads, whether it's Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, or any of these other ones. Consolidation of power. And yes, there are religious institutions and even colleges and universities, school boards, school districts who are complicit in the same thing. If you don't believe me, look at the letter that the National School Board Association pleaded with the Federal Bureau of Investigations to label people that criticize and act all types of amorphous ways at school board meetings, to label them as domestic terrorists. Terrorists. I fought against terrorists. These jokers don't know what a terrorist actually is. But anyways. So, what is this dream called America? What is it, y'all? Is it so that a few get to determine our course and way of life in terms of our voting, in terms of our education, in terms of taking care of our kids, in terms of our jobs? That sounds like slavery. Be careful about that bill that getting tried to pass in Congress. You know, the infrastructure bill and all that other stuff. That's not freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, that's slavery. I'm being as clear as all can be. If you have one individual or group taking care of all your health needs, your economic needs, your way of life, that is not freedom. You are beholden to another entity to determine your human flourishing instead of the majesty, dignity, and worth that is residing in each and every one of you. Is it a dream or is it a nightmare? Is it a dream when you're excluded from particular places? Is it a dream when you are discriminated against because you have not received or chosen to take a particular medical procedure? I think that's called discrimination. Is it a dream? Echoing the words of Maximus, this is not it. This is not it. A federal government, a leviathan that is increasingly growing. And it's like the 10th Amendment, can I be quite clear? They take the 10th Amendment and they crap all over it. Why have states? Why have borders anymore? Why have counties? Why have cities? If we're going to allow the federal government to continue to grow so they can become like the Roman Empire was, then why do we have state borders? Why do we have governors? Why do we have a state legislature and a state senate? Why do we have county judges and quorum courts? Why do we have mayors and city? Why? Why do we have a school board? Why? How close can we arrive at that dream? The dream. Go back and read this, even with all its imperfections. Go back and read this. How close can we get to this dream without the imposition of authoritarians who pit Americans against one another in a gladiatorial fashion? I mean, that's why you get on social media, right? How does that look? People going back and forth against one another, angry with one another, being keyboard warriors, right? Saying things on the keyboard and on a screen that they probably would not say in the face of that individual. And Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, they can get up and say, are you not entertained? Is this not why you're here? How close can we get to this dream of America without being forced to do damage to each other's personal interests? It's not going to be perfect. I got that. Because it's a dream. And when you try to put a dream into reality, there's human beings. So ultimately, echoing again the Gladiator, what we do in life, this is what the general said, echoes into eternity. If you don't believe the general, go read Matthew 25. What we do in life, it will echo into eternity. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Humanity Matters Show. I am glad that you have joined me. I'm going to run through some comments here real quick, and then we're going to jump off. All right. So, did I miss the Chappelle talk? Yes. If you want to hear about Dave Chapelle and my thoughts about him, the show is in 3 segments. Talk about sports, Brooke Walker, and the Hogs. Then we tackle Dave Chapelle, and then the modern day Gladiator, looking at that. All right. Let's see. Nicole said, be careful when people celebrate and praise, because those same people will seek your demise just as quickly. They did it to Jesus. Don't think you are better. Okay. Yep. That is true. Machiavelli said it in his opening of The Prince. That individual that you choose to be your leader, right? That leader is going to come back around and they're going to take everything from you. And that's from Machiavelli, The Prince. And for many of y'all that voted for Biden, my black brothers and sisters, what? Didn't he diminish the HBCU fund? But you voted for him to prove your blackness. Remember? All right. Anything else? Thank you for the information. You're welcome very much. All right. So, hey, once again, just as a rundown, all right, this Thursday, I believe it's open to the public, 6 p.m., UCA downtown on Oak Street. This is sponsored and put on by University of Central Arkansas Outreach and Community Engagement. We'll be doing bear talks, and I'll be giving a talk on the class of pain in the School of Leadership. I'm going to do it it's going to be kind of a TED Talk format. So if you can come on out. All right. And then Bob Smiley will be coming to UCA Reynolds Performance Hall. And this is a fundraiser that my nonprofit, the City of Hope Outreach, and our Hope Village Committee is putting on. And so I would love to see you in attendance, and you can get tickets at uca.universitytickets.com. That's uca.universitytickets.com, and it's going to be at the Reynolds Performance Hall. So looking forward to that great event. And then running back, October 30th, I will be having for Humanity Matters one-on-one, Angela Mercado, chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County. Hey, go on YouTube. Got a lot of great one-on-one interviews with a lot of great people. Check them out. A lot of great information for you to learn. I'm trying to give as much value to people from a lot of different perspectives as possible. Again, I like to sit down with people, anybody. If you know a socialist, send them my way. If you know a Marxist, send them my way. Heck, if you know a white supremacist, send them my way. I want to talk to them. Well, I've talked to them before, but you got the drift. So, as always, remember to subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it very much. And if you find any value to this show, become a Patreon supporter. Like, hey, people are like, hey, would you run for office? Maybe. But support me now. Like, I'm doing the work now. I'm doing the work in terms of my nonprofit, doing the work in terms of this type of community engagement. Hey, little as $5, you can be a Patreon supporter. Just go to patreon.com, put in Philip Fletcher with 2 L's, Philip Fletcher, and become a Patreon supporter. And you'll get access to some content that I'm not putting out here on Facebook nor YouTube or Instagram or anything like that. A little bit more personal. And so support goes a long way. Keep up my equipment. Be able to buy books like these, right? So I can study and read and understand different perspectives, so on and so forth, and bring people on and also get some cool swag so I can send it out. I got a new t-shirt coming out and we'll be sending it out to people. So I'll be looking forward to that as well. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, I love to close this way. Remember to be love. Remember to be kind. Remember to be generous. And remember to be courageous. If we remember to live in hope, we can do the impossible. Y'all take care. God bless. Hey, if you found something of value, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us on Facebook at Dr. Philip Fletcher. Find us on Twitter at Philip Fletcher. And as always, visit us on the website philipfletcher.org.